Alrighty, and we are live. How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Thank you guys all so much for chiming in for the latest post-game show here on WardyNYM as we're covering basically every single Metropolitan game post-game throughout the normal 162. We covered over 100 games last year, and we will surely be doing that at the bar minimum this year for the number one post-game show here on YouTube covering this Mets team. And tonight, we unfortunately are going to be talking and breaking down the Mets losing today by a final score of 5-4. Their final game in a 4-game set in San Francisco. They dropped their final 2 games of the series. They had such a great chance and opportunity to win this series by at minimum taking 3 of 4. They unfortunately were not able to do that. Still had a very strong road trip going 7-3, which was above my initial expectation and the expectations of many. But to end things on a sour note, especially in this fashion, definitely rubs me the wrong way. You never want to see it a 1-run ball game and to lose that tied ball game in the bottom of the 8th, heading to the top of the 9th, and then the Mets had nothing that they were able to do against the reliever there in Doval, who's a flamethrower for the Giants. So guys, I know we got a lot of mad. I know we got irrational Mets fans in the chat per usual. The sky is falling. Drew Smith needs to be DFA'd. All these things that we're naturally going through. And of course, I'm joking here. I'm just trying to show what it's like to be a certain type of Mets fan right now. I'm not happy about this loss, so I'm going to break down innings 1 through 9. What transpired in this matchup, really what bothered me most in this ball game, and it starts with the inconsistent starting pitching and then getting into the offense, what I liked and what I didn't like. We do have a player of the game tonight that I do want to highlight here shortly, so I'll get into that after breaking down the ball game. But more than anything, guys, the same way that I always say spam those W's in the live chat after a nice win, I'm going to tell you guys to spam those L's in the live chat after a rough loss, especially against a Giants team that, let's face it, this is a mediocre team that the Mets should be taking care of, winning 3 of 4. Again, give tip of the cap. They were the better team tonight. I'm not going to sit here and slight them. However, this was still a very winnable ball game, and yet the Mets were not able to leg it out and get enough runs scored when they needed to just get some insurance. Again, just another game of only scoring 4 runs. They scored 4 runs yesterday in the blowout loss to the Giants, and thankfully I wasn't scheduled to cover it because I was out and about. Usually weekends are the only games throughout the normal season that I'm not going to be covering games consistently because I got to live my life a little bit, so I wasn't upset about not covering last night's game. Brett Beatty had 2 hits and an RBI, which is always nice. However, heading into today, again, Ross Stripling, the Mets were able to beat up on a little bit there. He didn't have a deep outing today, but it just a lot of frustrations along with the umpires, obviously, along with ESPN being anything but good with the broadcasting skills, aside from David Cohn and what he did there with the sticky substance breakdown. And I was annoyed by how long they were discussing this, because as soon as ESPN gets a chance to discuss something that is not centered around the actual game itself, live play-by-play, they're surely going to hop on that, and that's what they did. However, Cohn's breakdown about the alcohol and how it mixes with rosin was very interesting. That was informative, so I'm not downing that. Aside from that, though, is there any Mets fan that has genuinely enjoyed ESPN's broadcast? I mean, if you are, please let me know, because you got to be 1 in a million, 1 in a billion, rather. But let me know in the live chat. And the umpires, got to give them credit for being absolutely dog you-know-what consistently since the game started today. I know that the ump wasn't too sharp yesterday from what I saw either, but oh my goodness gracious, the Mets, the calls that they weren't getting and the Giants were getting was actually ridiculous, especially those down and away pitches was unbelievable. So I got a lot to get into. Again, I'm not going to sit here and make every excuse in the world saying that, oh, this is why the Mets didn't win, because at the end of the day, they didn't win because they didn't get consistent starting pitching once again, has been basically the story of almost this entire road trip, outside from Joey Fuego's brilliance to start off this series against San Fran. But aside from that, the Mets have not had good starting pitching. The relievers have been absolutely phenomenal for the most part up until we saw there in that bottom of the 8th inning. But guys, more than anything, I appreciate you all chiming in. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you're watching live or on replay. It's greatly appreciated. Again, win or lose, as long as I'm around, we are covering this Mets baseball game. So that is exactly what we're going to do. But I do want to share a couple quick updates for you all before we deep dive this ball game. One is the following regarding the Mets ace right now, not named Max Scherzer, but Justin Verlander, soon to be ace because he has yet to make his Mets debut. He pitched 3 innings of 43 pitches in a simulated game today. He remains scheduled, according to Anthony Nicomo of the Mets, for a minor league rehab start on Friday, most likely there in Port St. Lucie, which will set him up to return the first week of May against the Detroit Tigers in Detroit. So it's a pretty fitting that he is going to be making his Mets debut in Detroit against his former club, where he had all that great success for at least a decade span, I feel like, right there in Detroit, and that's where he started his career, with Max obviously too. So very excited to see JV make his long-awaited return and debut with the Mets. So mark your calendars. I know a Mets series in Detroit might not be too appealing, right? And hopefully it's a lopsided affair, but hopefully it's lopsided with obviously watching JV go out and shove in his Mets debut. So make sure you mark your calendars. That will be in the first week of May. Another update too that we saw earlier in the game today was Mark Vientos, pregame I should say, was a late scratch today for the AAA Syracuse Mets. And we were wondering why, and obviously people are leading to assumptions that, oh, he's caught up, oh, someone's put on the bereavement list, oh, someone is injured, oh, someone's traded, this and that, just for it to, of course, be, at least according to Mike Puma, that it was just that he was not playing today. I find that a little hard to believe because you normally don't scratch a guy who was initially posted in the lineup being a late scratch if it wasn't because of an injury, a recurring ailment or something. So there's definitely some line going on there, and I don't know what that is. If I had to guess, and I would say maybe it was Mark wasn't necessarily feeling the best and they just didn't want to say it publicly, in which I don't know why you would hide that. But what I do know is that Mark Vientos was a late scratch today, which again is naturally going to raise eyebrows and question marks as to why that was when he was initially slotted to play today for the Syracuse Mets. So take of that information as you will. But with that being said, I see a lot of my great members here. James, how you doing? Steven, how you doing? I see the spam L's, rightfully so. Again, when the Mets don't come out and win a one-run ball game like this, all the right in the world with spam L's in the chat, and you should. It's a frustrating game. Braves have lost 4 straight games too, so it'd be nice if the Mets could take a little bit of an advantage there, but thankfully it's still early in the season. Not that really means too much because every game matters, but you know what I'm trying to say here. Hey, Jack, thank you so much. Great supporter, Steven. Let's go down the list. James Carroll, of course. Love you, James. But, guys, let's break down this ball game now because, again, it was frustrating. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I commend everyone that had ESPN's broadcast muted and were listening, of course, there to the Mets radio, as you should. The only reason why I don't do that too often is because it's kind of hard to sync the game, and then if I'm delayed, it doesn't bode well for someone like me that live tweets during games constantly, is making notes constantly leading up to my post-game shows. So, let's break down this ball game now because it was an annoying one, to say the least. So we start out there in the first inning. Again, Tyler McGill comes out today. He's facing a left-handed heavy lineup there from the Giants, and they were guns a-blazing from the beginning. And this was something where, McGill didn't have the worst outing in the world, yet this was still the worst outing that he's had so far this season. And it's imperative on the Mets to make sure that he has a solid bounce-back outing and not continue to crumble the way that we've seen David Pearson, for instance, be terrible lefty on lefty, no less. I mean, I'll talk a little bit more about David Pearson in our podcast. I'll probably be coming out tomorrow night. Myself, Anthony Recker, and Joe Sorrell, stay tuned for that. Was going to be earlier in the day, but now we're pushing it to tomorrow night, probably around 8 Eastern when we usually do it, because it's an off day tomorrow, so it doesn't necessarily need to be rushed. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to chime in. But David Pearson, again, getting banged around constantly again yesterday, at least 700 runs. And then today, we have Tyler McGill on the bump, looking to hopefully lead the Mets to victory. But it starts with first pitch swing. Lamont Wade Jr. rips a deep single to right. I mean, that bad boy, you almost thought it was out of the park. Thankfully, it hits the wall. It's a deep single because it ricochets nicely in the Mets' favor there. And then Michael Conforto with a walk. J.D. Davis doing the best J.D. Davis double plays Davis that you love to see. And then Jock Pearson, who I was concerned about heading into this game once I saw that he was posting the lineup late. I was like, oh, that's not good. Jock Pearson, this is the same guy that hit 2 bombs off of Tyler McGill at Citi Field last year. He absolutely murdered the Mets in San Francisco last year too. And he starts things off with an RBI single. Why? Because of course he does. Hits off the glove of Lee Gourmet, trying to make a nice snag, but that was a heater coming from Jock Pearson. That is the first run of the game, scored in the Giants' favor. Then as we get to the second, McNeil with a bloop single, Vogelback with a single, Beatty with an infield single. The Mets have bases loaded with 1 out. They're getting guys on base. Unfortunately, they're not able to convert because Francisco Alvarez, who would have a highlight today, not before grounding into it, ending double play there in the second. I saw a lot of people already ragging on Alvarez, saying that we need to trade this guy. Oh, he's not ready. I'm not going to sit here and say that his bat is MLB Ray right now because he's pressing like a mofo. Not deny that at all, but we have to remember the only reason why Alvarez is with the Mets right now is because Omar Narvaez is out with injury, right? And I'd rather them give the kid reps. Obviously, I don't like seeing them give him reps and he struggles in his at-bats that ultimately could dictate winning or losing the ball game. In today's case, really could dictate losing it. If the Mets scored that bases loaded situation less than 2 in the second, this is an entirely different ball game. So this is a more fair argument as to why you can have your frustrations towards Alvarez. But anyone ready him off when he's 21 years of age, the youngest catcher in baseball right now, when he has so much developing to do, is just so hilarious to me. And thankfully, he would silence some early haters later on in this ball game. But as we get to the bottom of the second, Estrada rips a home run off of McGill. It's already a 2-0 Giants lead, and not scoring there. That bases loaded, less than 2-out situation. The top of the inning definitely stunting a little bit more there as it was 2-0 in San Fran's favor. As we then head to the third inning with 2 outs, Starling Marte with a single. Lindor would drive him in with an RBI opposite field double, and got to give credit where credit's due. I wish the Giants were heckling, Giants fans rather, were heckling more constantly that we could hear in the game feed, because every single time we've heard Giants fans heckle over the past year plus, it has not benefited them. Last year when the Mets were in San Fran, they were heckling McNeil, saying he doesn't have power, and then McNeil rips the bomb to right, because of course he does. Then we see here earlier in this matchup, not in tonight's game, but overall in the series, we hear fans saying the Mets suck. Yeah, they do, and that's when the Mets were piling it on in Game 1, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, because that was a really nice game, and they had a good amount of runs scored there. But then we find out today, right before Lindor barrels a baseball to drive in a run to make it a 1-run ball game, hear fans calling Lindor easy at Lindor. Easy. And I'm like, thank you for the jinx. I appreciate that. Keep it up. I wish they talked more, because, if they didn't, then maybe that's the reason why the Mets lost after all. But in the bottom of the third with 2 outs, J.D. Davis with a hit by pitch. That's all she wrote, though. J.D. Davis did really well at being the J.D. Davis that we've known over the past couple of years by. And today's game especially, doing nothing. Double plays. Swinging at swinging through fastballs right down the pipe, 94 miles per hour, and taking fastballs up and in. Prime J.D. Davis is what we saw today, so I'm glad that he didn't beat up on the Mets. Same that I'm glad that Conforto didn't necessarily have a field day with the Mets in this series either. Obviously, having Peterson and Lucchesi in the rotation helped a bit, because that limited Conforto in the amount of starts that he was going to get. But heading back into this ball game, let's do this. In the fourth, McNeil infield single, Vogelback with a walk, Beatty with an opposite field single. Again, Beatty continuing to get on base. He only had one single today. Did they give him an error? I think they said it was an error for the first time he got on base. But Beatty getting on base 4 times in the past 24 hours, we will gladly take that. You can tell that the bat-to-ball skills are certainly there with him, and he is anything but an issue right now. Very happy to see Buck give him reps by starting 3 consecutive days in a row. And now I just hope we start to see him get some starting reps against left-hand pitchers, especially if the Mets are facing at all, that being in Patrick Corbin for the National Series upcoming, because if you're going to start against any lefty to get acclimated to more lefty starting pitching, that's the guy to do it against right now. So hopefully we see that, with the assumption Corbin is pitching against the Mets this week, because I'm not sure if he is. I haven't looked at the pitching alignment yet. But no less, his bases loaded there for the Mets with no outs, and already Ross Stripling, only 67 pitches, is out of the ball game. And, ballsy move there by Kapler. That wouldn't benefit him that much in that scenario, at least, because they're bringing Taylor Rogers, the brother of Tyler, this time the southpaw, in his first year in San Fran, and Conforto drops a Mark Canha fly ball on the right, and everyone was spamming, Michael Conforto stole Met in that sense, which I found funny, even as a Conforto lover still, and that thankfully drives in the game-tying run as McNeil would score. Then afterwards, Nimmo with an RBI sac fly, and just like that, the Mets get back onto a 3-2 lead. Nimmo had a phenomenal interview today as well with ESPN. I'm not a fan of those ESPN interviews every game, because again, it takes away from the play-by-play. However, it was nice to hear Nimmo talk, because how can you not like this man? I mean, everything that this guy says is just the most humbling and sweet thing. So Nimmo, just further reason as to why I love you, not because of that RBI sac fly, but just hearing more words come out of your mouth and actually, being asked interesting and, some fun questions. I'll give them that, and actually responding to them properly, and just nonchalant while he's working that center field. But no less, the Mets get a 3-2 lead in the top of the fourth. So as we head to the bottom of the fourth, then Yaz with an opposite field single. I mean, Yastrzemski got some really nice hits against the Mets this series, especially lefty and righty. It was frustrating to say the least. Crawford with a single, and Crawford with a single. Saban with a, was it Saban? Sable, I'm sorry, not Saban, with an RBI sac fly. Was that RBI single, I should say. Wisely with an RBI fielder's choice, gets on second base via error. And then that would be Tyler McGill's final line. So, the Giants get back in this ball game just like that, and McGill ends with 4 innings pitched of 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, and 1 home run on 81 pitches. Obviously not the sharpest stuff from McGill today, but it's like, while I wasn't happy with his overall start, he really concerns me lefty and righty, even though it's funny I say that because he gave up a bomb to Estrada, who was a righty, so it was righty on righty in that sense. But still, though, it's kind of crazy how much the Mets have had a lack of consistent and productive starting pitching, because just 4 innings of 4 earned, is where the Mets can still be in this ball game with how the offense has displayed itself over this West Coast trip. They have really fought that adversity well, so I'm not going to sit here and say that McGill is solely the reason why the Mets lost today. That they definitely didn't score enough with runners in scoring position type situations, which, again, frustrating, but certainly McGill did not have a sharp start either. Thankfully, it just wasn't what we saw yesterday in David Pearson, which was anything but good. I mean, David Pearson's last handful of starts now have not been sharp, and it definitely is worrisome for a Mets team that needs this starting pitching depth really big time. Even with Justin Verlander coming back, Scherzer's going to miss a start in that National Series because of pardon me, why am I blanking? Because of the suspension, and he'll return in that Braves series. But let's get back into it. So we're breaking down the ball game. We get to the fifth, and Jeff Brigham with a 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts. When I tell you that this guy has impressed me and then some, my goodness, my God, my gracious. If there was any positive from today's game, it was Jeff Brigham. Really, really sharp. Again, has been flawless since being called up by the Mets a number of days ago now, and he didn't stop there. So Brigham, really, really nice fifth inning of a 1-2-3. Then as we get to the sixth, again, the guy who has not looked sharp at all at the plate. Great at catching, great with framing so far in Francisco Alvarez. Who would have thought it's a reverse role to start his MLB career? You would have think, oh, he has the bats ball skills, but the defense is going to be shaky. No, the defense is actually above average right now, but the offense hasn't been there. But thankfully, when no one was able to hit a lick against Tyler Rogers, Taylor's brother, a submariner that's so hard to hit of, when you're not used to him at least, Alvarez is the one guy to take a 73-mile-per-hour pitch up high and rips it to left for his first home run of the 2023 season. That ties the ball game 4-4. Shout out Alvarez, or should I say El Troll, his nickname. Again, barreled the baseball nicely there. That has to be a nice little monkey off his back too, who I'm sure has been struggling up and down with his confidence early on here, as he's been in plenty of runners of scoring position type situations and hasn't produced. Of course, now when there's no guys on base, thankfully it at least tied the ball game here. So Alvarez, I'm happy that happened to him. Hopefully we get to see him really take on some pitching and take his pitches properly, not press too much, and hopefully this is a turn in the right direction for him in his young career at the age of 21. But nice home run there to tie the ball game in the sixth. The Mark Cannon would get an infield single thereafter. But then as we get to the bottom of the sixth, because the Mets don't score after tying the ball game, Jeff Brigham with another 1-2-3 outing, including 2 strikeouts. And I mean, Jeff Brigham, let's just speed up a little bit. In the seventh, then, with 2 outs, Lamont Wade Jr. with a double. Nothing else transpires because we get a 1-2-3 inning. Not 1-2-3, but we get a nice, smooth inning there from Brooks Raley in the seventh. Raley looked really sharp today. Gave up that 1 hit, but had 3 strikeouts. He's down to a 3.6 ERA now on the season, which is nice from how he started the year. Not that means too much, but especially as a reliever, Raley has looked sharp lately, to say the least. And then the eighth, Drew Smith comes in. There's people saying, why not Adam Ottavino? I mean, you could argue not Adam Ottavino because he hasn't been notorious for doing well against lefties, but still though, it's almost like you might have been better off putting Raley out there for a second inning. Maybe not, because Raley has been giving up hard contact to lefties still, but Drew Smith comes in. He gives up a walk with 1 out there to Jock Pearson, and then Yastrzemski again with an RBI double gives the Giants the lead and ultimately the go-ahead run to win this ball game. Estrada would have hit by pitch, but then Mets can't hit a lick in their 8, 9, and 1 of the order there against Duvall, the flamethrower, in the top of the ninth, and that does it. The Mets lose by a final score of 5-4. But while I don't want to necessarily do a player of the game, I am going to tonight because I already had it set up, and I feel like he deserves credit because even though that this loss definitely sucks and I'm frustrated about how the game ended, losing in that fashion there is one player of the game, and he definitely deserves credit. The guy that we were just hyping up a second ago, and that is Jeff Brigham. He has retired all 12 batters since being called up by the Mets now. Again, 2 innings, and he allowed no hits, by the way. That's an error on the graphic on my end. I think I put a 4 there by accident because I put a 4 there in the strikeout, so please ignore where it says 4 hits. It was 0 hits. Again, me being a schmuck as always, I'm bound to mess up a graphic when I do them. But Brigham had a lot of nice movement on his sweeping slider and fastball up to get the batter there. I think, who was that? In Crawford, right? Really, really like what I'm seeing from Jeff Brigham so far. And I want to know what your guys' opinions are on him in the comments below. And, of course, for people in the live chat. Because Brigham's one of these guys that, again, didn't even make the Mets bullpen to start the year. Wasn't anything too sharp in spring training. Started the year in the minors in AAA on the IL. But once he returned, was effective and then was called up not long ago. And he really, really has been sharp for the Mets. So hopefully Brigham is a nice piece for this bullpen that they can utilize throughout the year. Because, again, a lot of the Mets relievers have been been eating innings constantly and have been eating them really well. I mean, this bullpen was a major X factor. The Mets going 7-3 in this away trip. There's no doubt about it. The starting pitching wasn't there outside of Joey Lucchesi. The Mets got little to no quality starts in this entire trip. I mean, let's be real here. They really didn't. So, got to give credit to the bullpen. Got to give credit to Jeff Brigham, who was my player of the game when there wasn't much else going right. I couldn't even give it to Alvarez. Happy that he hit his home run, but again, still left a lot of guys on base. So I'm happy he hit that bomb, but Brigham had a bigger impact because he was the only Mets pitcher today to not surrender a hit, and let alone give the Mets 2 scoreless shutdown innings, including 4 strikeouts. Jeff Brigham, you are Wardy's player of the game. Guys, in the comments, let me know how you feel about that, but got to give it to Jeff. Very, very sharp from him there. But as we get to the hitting stats today, too, and this is a little different because Vogelbach did go 1 for 2 today with a run scored, but Tommy Pham, because he was the last guy in that DH spot, that's why it shows him. And then we also had Luis Gourmet. No, Luis Gourmet stayed in the game, right? Okay, no, Luis Gourmet got 1 at-bat, and then Mark Canha came in for him, and Canha went 1 for 2. So that's the stat line, as you see there. I'm not going to walk it through. Again, just not enough production today. The Mets at-bats weren't too quality for the most part, and Giants were due to win this ball game. I mean, the Giants had expecting batting average today, 274, the Mets 209. Take of that as you will. They had some bad luck all series long, but, it's annoying, though, because today, especially the ump was not on the Mets side. Very pitcher heavy, but especially there was one call, Brooks Raley, they called a ball. It was a pitch right down the pipe, and he didn't get it. And then you're seeing clear pitches down and away, or even a little up and away, just, middle of the plate, actually, just away, and they're called clear strikes when it was a full ball plus of a ball. Definitely wasn't happy with the officiating today. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's the reason why the Mets lost the ball game, because we don't know, right? We're not going to know. And what we do know is that the Mets didn't produce enough of runners in scoring position, and that ultimately led to them faltering today. And Tyler McGill with a less than impressive start. Hopefully he comes back out sharper next time that he's matched up. The next time that McGill is going to start is going to be against the Atlanta Braves. So it will be the biggest test for him this season. We'll see how he does. And that's going to be a huge matchup for the Mets when they have it coming this upcoming weekend, I should say. It's a huge, huge matchup. We'll see how everything goes on that front, but they do face the Nationals. So hopefully the Mets can sweep the Nats, if not absolute minimum, win 2 or 3. It's teams like the Nats that you need to get care of business of, though. You got to sweep these teams. I mean, it was frustrating that the Mets didn't even take 3 or 4 against the San Fran team that has such a high strikeout rate, and for the most part, were less than impressive up until what we saw yesterday. I mean, just barely David Pearson, but in defense, who hasn't barreled David Pearson to start the year? I mean, most teams have, right? So, especially lefty on lefty, which really, really frustrates me on the David Pearson front. I'll say more thoughts tomorrow for it, but man, I mean, David, come on. That was something that you were sharp in last year, especially. And he's looking night and day from how he started his 2022 season, which sucks. I'm really not happy with what we've seen from DP thus far. And it sucks because the Mets don't have starting pitching depth right now. They will soon. Getting Justin Verlander back is going to be huge. And according to reports, he's according to Buck Showalter, he's antsy, he's ready to get back with the Mets, which is great. I'm damn excited for that because the Mets need it right now. But once they finally get JV Max in this rotation, then we'll have a rotation of JV, Max, Senga. And then from there, we're supposed to find out about Carrasco in the next couple of days. We're going to find out if he's going to be starting to throw again or if he's going to be shut down and potentially have surgery. So, we're going to see on that Cookie front. But still, saying a Cookie aside, let's just put hypothetically he's out for a while. The Mets rotation, when healthy aside from Cookie, still has you in a spot where you're going to have David Pearson, Tyler McGill in the rotation. Actually, I got to correct myself because Joey Lucchese's performance was so strong that it may have just played David Pearson out of the rotation right now, either into the bullpen or sent back to AAA to get more reps and stay stretched out as a starter. Everyone in the live chat, I want to know what's your thoughts about that, actually. Let's head to the pitching right now. Once Verlander and Max are both in this rotation, especially, Lucchese will have by then at least another start or two, imaginably, in this rotation, right? So once those guys are healthy, do you think that Joey Lucchese will be deserving of being in a starting spot, maybe as a number 5 when Miguel is 4 for the foreseeable future until we find out more on Carrasco? And even that's a little concerning, though, I'm not going to lie, because the Mets pitching depth has stepped up, but now they're getting exposed for initially being your number 8, 9, and 10 stars to start the year. So even with everything going right, at this rate, I would be a little surprised if the Mets don't trade for starting pitching at the trade deadline. At least add one starter that can be your number 4. because this is concerning. It's not like the Mets have Trevor Williams types, which would have been so nice to have should he have not went to the Nationals to be a starter every day, in which we could have probably used that right now. Seth Lugo, a different degree, because who would have thought? I mean, Lugo's eating innings and throwing so many pitches. I'm not complaining on that front at all. I'm curious to see how long it's going to take before he gets worn down, should he get worn down. But I want to know your thoughts about Lucchesi there for sure. This is where you have Pierce Steers. I've always had Pierce Steers. Yeah, I've had him this entire time being a content creator. Yeah, where are you? Unless you're new here, then that would make sense. 7-3 road trip is pretty good, says Sal, especially when you consider the starting pitching was awful aside from Joey Lucchesi. Yep. Yeah. And again, the Mets, I bet they will be in the market for starting pitching, but you can't expect them to be in that market right now. Not with this early in the season, not with them having little to no leverage. They will ride it out with the depth that they have because their depth starters have been proven to be able to eat innings, but it's a matter of will those starts be quality at all? To begin the year, we got that in McGill, and Peterson was decent at best to begin the year. But now we're already seeing things get exposed. So, like when Joey Lucchesi, who's basically your number 9, number 10 starter heading into 2023, has the best quality start out of all Mets starters to begin the year, that's a great thing for Joey and a great thing for the Mets' depth. However, that's a terrible look of the rotation overall, right? Things should be different, even with us sitting here at April 23rd. So this is something the Mets are going to be constantly monitoring, and we certainly as fans are going to be monitoring because the Mets have been able to weather the storm with the lack of starting pitching going deep in games throughout the whole West Coast trip, going 7-3. But those few instances where they haven't been able to weather the storm too much, like the past 2 days, ultimately is leading them to their losses. So they're not going to be able to eat David Pearson giving up 6-7 earned that many more times, right? Tyler McGill, 4/4. Again, doable that you can stay in a ball game, but still not an ideal place to be. You want to see McGill hopefully give you 5 to 6 of 2 to 3 earned run ball, which is a much better situation to be in, which he has given us up until tonight. So, yeah, a lot of things that the Mets are going to be weighing and going through. Did you crap your pants this game? No. I was frustrated. Definitely frustrated by the game, but we didn't get that far. But I do want to share with you guys real quick, though, because, of course, we have 2 great partners on the channel. And one of them I want to share briefly with you all because that is going to be my friends at SoRare. Because SoRare MLB, for those that don't know, and I know that you guys probably hate them talking about it at a loss, but we got to do what we got to do. SoRare MLB, that many of you guys have already signed up for, is the best fantasy baseball game out there. Again, you're drafting your team just like you would in MLB The Show or any game like that. You get a certain amount of money that you're working with that they call gems of 200 to pick your starting pitchers, your relievers, your corner infielders, corner outfielders, other infielders, things of that nature, and you enter weekly tournaments 2 a week, and how your team does is indicative based on how the players do in real life. So I didn't do too well in this Majors tournament, mainly because Andrew Chafin didn't get much reps. Yoshida went off today, hit 2 home runs in the same inning against the Brewers. Andres Gimenez, though, was absolutely cheeks. That's hate to see it. And the biggest bummer wasn't even Lindor for me, but it was Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease, I expected more out of him. I got nothing from. He only went like 4 innings yesterday or the day before against McClanahan, no less. But yeah, I love this game, guys, and I highly implore you all, if you haven't already, as I know many of you guys have, because all the best content creators out there are also partnered with SoRare and doing their own things. You see their commercials for MLB games too. If you haven't signed up already, I highly implore you all by using my link in the description down below, and make sure to let me know when you sign up. If, say, you guys are on social media, tweet at me the first team that you draft and come up with, because you can earn real money from this based on selling your own cards that you win in these tournaments. You can buy, sell, trade your cards like normal card collecting, but it's the digital version, so like NFT in that sense, but they're unique to you, and how you do in these tournaments can lead to you winning free game tickets to the New York Mets, free memorabilia, or free cards to upgrade your team from what it's currently at. So again, make sure to check out SoRare MLB if you guys haven't already. Thank you so much in advance. A lot of you guys have been tweeting at me too and telling me what your teams are looking like. And I'm impressed. Some of you guys' teams are wiping the floor with mine because I need to mix things up a little bit. I'm happy with a core group of mine, but I want to get a little bit better too with some other infielders I have aside from Lindor, and outfielders. Just some more options, and maybe another reliever too I got to add there, because Chafin's great, but he's not pitching every single day, so that's something that doesn't benefit me. But again, shout out to SoRare MLB. Phenomenal game. Having so much fun with it. I would be playing it right now if they weren't even a partner, so I'm so grateful to have them as a partner. So yeah, that's all I got to say on that front. But again, appreciate them and appreciate you guys checking them out by clicking the link down below in the description or in the comment section below if you're watching this on replay especially. But let's see here. Would I take a chance on Bumgarner? No, I won't. I was asked this question a lot, and Madison Bumgarner isn't good, guys. And I know that the Mets pitching lately hasn't been good, but there's no need to add a guy that's washed. That isn't going to be any better. Is not going to do well in a market like New York. I can almost guarantee that. No, thank you. I have like such little interest in Madison Bumgarner. It's not even funny. I haven't had interest in him in a long time, too. I remember the past couple off seasons, Mets fans were advocating that we would eat his contract, and the only way that made sense to me is if the Mets are getting a really nice piece back from Arizona tagged with Madison because you're eating said contract. Now it would just be picking him up because his contract would be eaten already by Arizona, that remaining $35 million. I don't have interest in Mad Bum. He's not good. He hasn't been good in years. He's not going to be good again. He's washed. He has not been the same since his motorcycle accidents. He's not the pitcher that he once was. And I know he's still only in his early 30s, but no thank you. It's a Dallas Keuchel 2.0 situation if you take a flyer on him, in my humble opinion. You're welcome for sweeping the Braves. I appreciate that, Bomb Squad Alvarez, Astros fan. Thank you so much for the $2 holla. That means a lot. Yeah. I mean, Astros came into Atlanta and they took care of business the same way that San Diego did, winning 3 of 4 when the Padres weren't even playing good baseball yet. I mean, the Padres have yet to play consistent baseball. They're finally starting to get on a roll with Tatis back, but the Braves have not been overwhelmingly impressive. Fun fact about the Braves I do want to share with you guys briefly, and then we'll be wrapping things up here shortly. Not a long show tonight, especially after a loss. An annoying loss to say the least, but we move on. The Mets still had a 7-3 road trip. I'm happy with that. Not happy with them dropping this game. I was content with them going 8-2. I understood that yesterday's game just wasn't going to be in their favor. Pearson got shelled again. It was a wash. However, today, I mean, I'm still annoyed. I'm sour by this loss, but we move. Mets have an off day tomorrow too, so we're going to be depressed for another day until we see Mets baseball. But what I did want to share with you all, and this is not to sit here and rag on the Braves or anything like that, because we'll have fun doing that as Braves fans do with me with the Mets throughout the year per usual. But one thing that I did find interesting is that the Braves lost this series, or were swept by the Astros. This was the first time in almost 2 years that the Braves have been swept in a 3-game set or more. Furthermore, this is the first time in a long time that the Braves lost 4 consecutive games. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, the Braves have not lost 4 games in a row. They didn't have that happen once at all in 2022, unless I'm mistaken, right? But just based on the math of not being swept in a 3-game set or more, how could they have lost 4 straight, right? So, based on that logic, it's been probably around that same time frame, if not longer. The Braves probably haven't lost 4 straight games since that first half of 2021, if I had to guess. So it's probably around 2 years as well. So very interesting that this is happening to Atlanta early in the season. We know, though, that Atlanta is usually a team that they might not be hot in the first half, but by God, they're going to be steamrolling in the second half, that just like they were last year, just like they were in 2021 post-trade deadline after they got the likes of Soler, Rosario, Duvall back from Miami, etc. So just interesting. The Mets, the division is certainly up for grabs big time at this point in the year, but that also means very little. Being first in the division honestly means so little to me after what we learned last year. That what means most to me as a fan is just making sure that you get into postseason and you have a deep playoff run. Whether you win the division or not, we'll soon find out down the road, obviously. But regardless, just make postseason and have a deep run. Have a deeper run than last year. Hopefully you have aspirations of a championship and get close there, if not there, to be exact. So, yeah, that division stuff, I mean, I quite frankly don't give a shit about the bragging rights, as we all learned from last year. If anything, that might have a negative impact on the Mets for all we know, because they were pressing hard by having the Braves nip at their heels basically all year long, and then they caught up at the perfect time, and then the Mets were gassed heading into that matchup against San Diego. They were outplayed in every facet of the game for the most part. So that's really my thoughts, at least. And I want to know what your guys' are in regards to being first in division. Would I love it? Absolutely. But it means so little to me. Let everyone talk their talk throughout the majority of the year. Not until we're really down the stretch in this season am I going to care. Let's see. Steven, thank you so much for a $5 holla. He says, it's better being 7-3 than 5-5 or 4-6. A better West Coast trip next time around. Yeah, I mean, this West Coast trip was really sharp by all accounts. Don't get it twisted. The Mets didn't lose a series in this West Coast trip. Sucks that they split tonight, don't get me wrong, but certainly appealing for them to go 7-3 versus my initial prediction on SNY of going 5-5. And I said that as conservative as possible with hopes of being wrong, and I was, and I'm very happy about that. JV, thank you so much for donating. He says, open membership to the Bash Alvarez Club. Appreciate that donation. Thank you. I don't know if Why? Like, there's no need. There's no need to be bashing Alvarez. That's to say the least. SNY should make Wardy a regular on the off day show. I appreciate that. I know that it won't be the last time that I'm working with them, and I appreciate them having me on for their debut EP. I will say though, if there's any positive, that I've noticed at least that with these type of shows, because SNY's Mets Off Day Live, in which they had me on for their first like inaugural episode, their pilot, if you will. They do the same thing with the putback with Ian Begley and the Knicks, and CP the franchise, who I absolutely love. May you Knicks fans do too as well. Big dub today, by the way. Shout out to you Knicks fans who are out there. Sorry if you're a Nets fan. What I will say though is that with the putback, which is the same type of show, half hour on SNY, on all the socials, CP is a reoccurring guest, a constant reoccurring guest, but he's not on every episode. So I will be beyond happy if I'm on just for however many more segments that they would like me to be part of them, and we'll see what happens from there. But I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you, my friend. You never heard from me, so you don't know if I wanted Kelenic before. Okay, so we got a chat going on here. Did we really need to give up Kelenic for Diaz? I mean, considering that Edwin Diaz has turned out to be a stud, yeah. Do we have to give him up for Diaz? Probably not, but that you can blame previous ownership and GM and that, not this. And we're not going to go on this Kelenic debate because he's finally starting to hit. I'm not shocked that he's hitting, okay? And I wish him nothing but the best. I have no ill will towards Kelenic either. I'm happy that he's hitting. It sucks that it's not with the Mets, but this is what happens when you trade away top prospects. You face that risk of them doing well once they finally get in a groove, and Kelenic has started to do that for sure. Am I going to be on SNY tomorrow? No, I'm not going to be on SNY tomorrow. Bring up Dylan Bundy. Dylan Bundy's not ready at all, Dave. Love you, my friend, but he's not. He just pitched the other day. Dylan Bundy has given up like 8 earned runs in each of his first 2 starts in AAA because he had no spring training, keep in mind. So he's just trying to get acclimated and just like comfortable with the season beginning. Bundy will not be utilized or considered to be utilized by the Mets anytime soon at this rate, unless, God forbid, more injuries occur. But I do want to get to, guys, before we wrap things up, I, of course, have to get to our, our final partner of the day, and that is what you guys know as our good friends at Manta Sleep. For those that don't know, Manta Sleep is the best sleep mask on the market that you can get out there. I've been raving about them. I'm so grateful to have them as a partner on the channel, because when I tell you that they have done wonders for me over the past couple of weeks since I started using their sleep mask, that's why I love having them as a partner now, because they are doing wonders. I mean, I cannot underestimate that enough. They have been phenomenal for me. All affordable. The Pro Mask in the top right is what I have. I use it pretty much every single night now since I got it the past 2 weeks. It just does wonders on making sure that there's no light coming in my room, that I'm seeing at least, and it's comfortable. I can roll around when I sleep, but I don't have to be stuck on my back. Sound mask has Bluetooth in it, which is phenomenal. If you guys like some nice sound waves, you want to listen to some nice calm music, if you want to listen to some, trees and wind going on, if you want to listen to the ocean, whatever you want. If you want to listen to whales out there in the ocean, whatever you want to do. Silk Mask is a really nice sleep mask. The other ones I'm really excited to get that I will be getting soon is they have a weighted mask, but the biggest thing is they have a steam mask to heat up around your eyes if you want, but the big one is a cool mask. You can literally have coolant around your eyes, because I am hot like a mofo every single night when I go to bed during the summer, especially after doing post-game shows like this. So that will certainly do wonders on me, and I cannot wait to get that. Weighted mask too, if you guys are interested in that as well. Again, all beyond affordable. The most bougie yet affordable sleep mask that you can get. So guys, make sure to check out Manta Sleep by using my link down below, and of course using my promo code at Wardy for 10% off your purchase. Again, that is Manta Sleep. Thank them so much for, again, being a great partner here on the channel, and make sure to check them out if you haven't already. And no, and not at all, Patrick. I absolutely love it. I hope you know that any partners or sponsors that we have on the channel are all things that I personally endorse and enjoy. It's not just because of the monetary aspect that comes into it. I love their product, like actually love their product. And I know it's a little odd, but especially for someone that does a post-game show that goes to bed not long after each of the shows I do usually on a night-to-night basis, that has been coming in clutch for me so much. I've been feeling rejuvenated and better than ever, because last year I was really, really struggling, especially in the second half of the year, on getting consistent sleep, especially after that Mets West Coast trip. It really was not doing me a good time at all and getting a normal sleep schedule. This thing has helped me a ton, and I cannot begin to tell you how much I appreciate having them as a partner, to say the least. But let's get in here to a couple more comments, and then I'm going to get out of here, guys. Again, we will have our latest podcast out tomorrow. We have figured out the name. We're excited. I don't know if we're going to unveil it tomorrow, but we're working on a logo and stuff, and then we'll eventually get a new YouTube channel, so we'll be streaming on both platforms and a lot of fun stuff coming. But we do have a name for the podcast, so stay tuned to that. But podcast will likely be around 8 or 8:30 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, live on WardyNYM YouTube channel. But I do see, what do you think we give up for good pitcher Mauricio or Vientos? I don't think either of those things are going to happen right now. Who knows what the future is going to hold come the trade deadline. I think it's very premature to evaluate what type of prospects, if at all, you're going to trade away for a pitcher, because it's so early. So I really can't answer that for you. Let's see. The Rays are looking unstoppable. Great pitching, and their hitters are clutch. Yeah, the Rays have been looking great, even with the pitching injury that they just sustained to what's-his-face. I'm forgetting. Was it Springs? Is it Springs that went down with Tommy John? Whoever it was. Yeah, Rays have been killing it still, for sure. I can't say how Buck handles the bullpen, what his obsession with Drew Smith is. Don't get me wrong. You could argue, I can understand not Robertson in that spot, per se, because it's a tie ball game, but you would want one of Robertson or Ottavino, right? So let's say you're not loving Ottavino's matchup, lefty and righty, for 2 to 3 batters he's facing, then okay, put Robertson in, and maybe Ottavino could come in for the save, should the Mets, say, score in the next inning there in the ninth, top of the ninth, rather, right? But I will say this, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was a terrible decision by Buck, because Drew Smith has been pitching well. It's not like Drew Smith has come out in his past couple outings and not been effective. He has been, but I understand the concerns, and I can understand the criticisms to an extent when you see him in that tie ball game, bottom of the 8th. High leverage. You don't want Drew Flow out there every time. I can't disagree with that there. So I understand it. I understood to an extent what Buck was thinking there. Just frustrating, because we have seen those head-scratching moves every now and then from Buck in the pen. And that's really been the biggest critique with him, because he has been playing the kids, which I like. Now I just want to see Beatty face some left-hand pitching, especially Patrick Corbin is lined up to face the Mets this series. I want Beatty starting for sure. No better time to get him acclimated against a lefty starter than there. But guys, that is going to do it. I thank you all so much for watching live or on replay. Mets lose by a final score of 5-4 to the San Francisco Giants. They look to bounce back starting Tuesday at home against the Washington Nationals. The Mets have had most away games out of all teams in baseball already, and during that span, they still managed to go 10-3. Gotta say, not bad start on the road. The Mets have been really sharp on the road, but now we're heading back home. Hopefully we get more big hits at Citi Field against the Nationals team that you have to beat up on. Anything less, and it's definitely going to be a disappointment. So until then, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, folks. Whenever you're watching this, thank you all so much for watching. As always, stay tuned for our live podcast that will be coming at you tomorrow night, breaking down this series and going through a lot more things in Mets land. And again, thank you guys all so much. As always,